Good morning, I'm Susan Cousineau. This is the office hour for Oregon State University PDC Pro Winter 2024. This is Zoom number 8, and the next lesson due is lesson 8, Local Plant Survey and Plant System Design on May 7th, 2024. Okay, waiting for students to check in. I'm going to do a little share screen with my lesson 8. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so before students show up, I'm just going to whip through here a little bit quickly. I'm still kind of working on process here, what works best for people. So I'm always happy to take constructive criticism or suggestions. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to do a basic plant survey, very much like your ecological survey. So you're looking for a list of native or naturalized medicinal plants. Pick at least 3, 5 should usually be pretty straightforward. A lot of you may have not used these plants before, and that's fine. You can just put never used. But usually the common use, actions, what parts are used, you can find either online. There's a lot of edible plant guides available, often like for most regions, medicinal plant guides, that sort of thing. So, okay, and then just put some nice pictures in. Similar here, you're going to find 2 plants for each season that traditional peoples of your area would have used. And then there's some assignment recommendations for ethnobotanical research right here in the assignment resources. Okay, here you're going to find a few local nurseries. So local, usually folks can find something between 1 mile and 20 miles. Some, if you're really rural, that may be further out, but so find a number of nurseries that you would like to use. So these might be they might offer native plants, they might offer a good selection of organic plants, or at least like some recommendations for organic for where you can get organic plants, that sort of thing. Okay, and then similar, you're going to find 3 farms that are inspiring around you. They may and likely don't use the word permaculture in the farm. Often they might even just be like hobby farms. They might use the word permaculture on their website, or regenerative agriculture principles. They may be organic, but it's worth, and if you can, it's worth getting out there to a visit, because sometimes organic is just basically conventional without the chemicals, without the addition and the additives. So regenerative or like permaculture based farming, you're really going to look for, there's a focus on soil health. There's some ideally integration with livestock of some kind. So they've got like chickens or ducks or sheep or cattle, that they're using those manures or using them to manage weed pressure or something like that. So really look for farms that are doing something innovative, and organic is just fine. But ideally you've got somebody that's really focusing on like a whole ecosystem health, at the very least on soil health. And then a straightforward SWOT analysis. So this might be, development of farm property is impinging on local farms. So you have to, kind of go far afield to find a farm now. Weaknesses might be, it's very difficult to get to those places for whatever reason. Strengths, you could have a good diversity of farms and nurseries to choose from. Like maybe you just narrow it down to 3 or 5. You really had to make some choices. And then opportunities would be things like opportunities to volunteer or to work with those farms to create some collaboration, something like that. Okay, and then your plant system design. Now, this is really where you start to get into the design portion of the course. So I know it probably feels a little weird that it's so late in the course, but this is where you've got the skills and the foundation to actually start putting these pieces together. So you're going to start with a statement of purpose. So what the point of your design and what you're trying to create on this site is going to be. There's some examples there. And then 3 different goals. And this is kind of based on like SMART goals, which I can never remember what the acronym means, but you can look it up. So basically that they're going to be timely. There's you're going to have some basic strategies for achieving that goal, what kind of patterns you're looking to use. So if something that's like, they give you some examples like blocking winter wind, capturing solar heat, reducing solar input, might be like using an edge, valuing the marginal, so valuing edge habitat in some way, valuing something that has been discarded as a resource. So you might be doing like some sort of a salvage operation, something like that. And goals can be like soil health, increased bird diversity or pollinator diversity, and increased community connection. then you're going to be using your map here with the existing conditions. Don't forget the scale bar, the legend, the information piece, all of that. And then here's going to be your base map showing the focus that you've chosen for this particular plant system design. And remember, this is going to be your existing conditions right now. So plant system design, existing conditions. Okay, and then this is what you're proposing. So just follow the instructions. You can look to the examples to see how different people have restructured this or moved things around. You can make some notes about this here. Don't forget your plant legend. What I really like to see in a plant legend is, this goes from Dan Halsey's work with United Design Internationals. I think it's a really good tip. When you're abbreviating the plant name, use the first 2 letters of the genus name and then the first 2 letters of the species name. So you wind up with a 4-letter abbreviation. And what that does is it makes it very unlikely that plants are going to overlap. So you very rarely have 2 plants in the same design with the same acronym. Now, if you just use 2 letters, especially if you just go from the common name, you're going to wind up with lots of overlap, and then you're going to have to add another letter. You're going to have to use a different color or something, or some sort of a symbol to indicate that they're different plants. So just start from the beginning, use those 4 letters, first 2 from the genus name, second 2 from the first letters of the species name, and that'll keep you out of trouble there. And then again, this convention with the common name and then just a comma and then the Latin name in italics with the genus name capitalized. I think you guys have all got that down by now. So just follow the instructions here, common name, Latin name. You can remove the ampersand here. You don't need the ampersand, but the common name in plain text, Latin name in italics. You can add some element details about each aspect. So an element might be something like a rainwater tank, a little pond that you're installing, a trellis, fence, anything like that. Okay, this is just a blank slide here if you want to add more detail. Okay, and then another cross section, here we go. Again, include the scale bar, compass, legend, include summer and winter solar angles so that you can show how you're considering your shade aspects. So a tree might be maybe a better example is like a shrub might be in full shade part of the year, but then once the summer sun hits, it gets more full sun. So you can look at how that changes over the course of the year. And then make it really clear, you can either use A and B, which most students do. You can use A prime, whatever works for you there. But I think A and B is pretty straightforward. Sometimes if you're printing maps out quite small, that prime gets lost and then it's hard to tell what's A and A. Okay, and then your information bar, legend, all that stuff. Okay, here you're going to explain which plants you're using and in what context. Now, you may not have all of this data. Now, especially for the folks in the Southwest USA, my apologies to everyone in other areas, but this data should be available in the plant list that I provided you in Google Drive. So I'll drop a link to that in the office hours notes, but it gives you a minimum rooting depth, usually give you some information on the root pattern. Often you can also find this online. So for you folks in other parts of the world, if you get stuck, feel free to reach out to me and I can look particular plants up on the Permaculture Plant Data website. Again, I do think that and getting yourself a membership to that site, if you can afford it, it's $50 US a year, is well worth it because you can look up all those plants. But I also understand if you're just doing this for a personal, you're on a budget, it's fine to not do it. Just reach out to me and let me know what plants you'd like me to pull the data for, and I can send that to you. Okay. Again, when you email me, make sure to put OSU PDC in the email header, in the email body, so it goes into the right folder. You can also contact me through Canva, and then I for sure see the email. It just might be a little bit delayed if I'm not checking it every day. Okay, here's your plant system design, and then here's your native shrub and pollinator garden, if you want to use that. So this is an example of a completed species matrix. So you can use it for reference and then delete it. Okay, here's your foods forest example. What kind of plants you put in there. So here they've got annual herbs, a vine, and some shrubs. Okay, and so if you're doing the food forest design, especially on a small site, you may not wind up getting all of the layers, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You okay with that? Okay, now here you're going to talk about how these pieces are interrelated to each other. So how, you know, a certain element, for instance, like a pollinator plant or alums, onions, garlics, and things like can repel pests. Might be interacting with the main tree or the shrubs. So just think about like how those things are working together. You're going to look at maintenance, how maintenance is going to be looked after. So once you've got plants in the ground, who's going to be watering them? How much time is that going to take? Are you planting things more densely to reduce maintenance? Are you planting just a few things or a very small area in order to keep that maintenance focused until you get kind of into a flow of it? All those aspects, basically just answer the questions. Ditto for water and irrigation. Now think about if you're going to be doing a rainwater system, where that tank's going to be going, you're going to be putting it up further higher into the landscape, so that, you know, if you can have gravity feed, that's an option. You might want to think about some backups, like if your main water line breaks, is that going to be hand watered? Any of those questions you might want to ask yourself. This is a good place to put those notes. Okay. And then another SWOT analysis, and you're done. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone showing up on the call here. I'm going to wait for, I'm going to end this video, but I will stay on Zoom to see if anybody else shows up. And then if in another about 10 minutes, nobody shows, I'll turn it off. So, okay, so for all you watching the replay, I hope that gives you a good overview of this coming assignment. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Okay, take care, and I'll talk to you later. All right.